Order?
Before we dive in, I wanted to make a quick announcement, which is that you all may have arrived back to your seats with a packet of letters in front of you. As I mentioned earlier this morning, we received some comments subsequent to us packaging it up for today's meeting between yesterday afternoon, last night, and this morning. So over lunch, staff delivered these comments. Some of them may be redundant to what you already have. We didn't have time to parse it out. We wanted to make sure we captured it all. So that's the new packet in front of you. And then for the public who's interested in obtaining this packet, it's on the table in the back. So that's want to let you know that that is now in your possession.
So before we went off to lunch, we were talking or conversing over the licensed or employed by for a civil engineer or an architect. So what we did was we just separated out the two from the C27. Now, if everyone, I noticed that everybody has the green booklet or the Practice Act. So if everyone wants to flip to quickly pages 28 to 29. So I was a little bit confused as we were doing this, and then I received some clarification. So hopefully, we can all do this together. So on page 29, at the very top, 11, it talks about the self-employment as or employment by a licensed civil architect or registered civil engineer. Now, for this, we have the architect and the civil engineer. And so this is referring to a licensed architect or a licensed civil engineer that wants to apply and get their landscape architect or qualify for the exam. And it's also referring to someone working under a licensed architect or a civil engineer to qualify, to sit in and qualify for the exam. Okay? And then the next one we have is the C27 landscape contractor. Now, in the current text, it was only referring to a licensed C27 contractor, so not someone working under a C27, just a specific licensed C27 landscape contractor. But from the discussion that we've been having, we want to add also, or subcommittee wants to add a licensed C27 landscape contractor and also someone employed under a C27 landscape contractor. Okay? And the discussion for this C27 LC was that in the current language it's 4 years, but we are, or the kind of the numbers that we received were 3 years. Okay, and then we asked for justification why it's 4 years and not 3, and we received some justification for that. And then, does it want to go back? And so going back to the licensed or employed architect or civil engineer, just to help me, kind of an outsider, not in the profession, understand that you still have to meet the 6-year requirement. We wanted to have education or other experience column on that side, so that whatever or whichever pathway an applicant selects, if they're trying to do the experience only pathway, they still have to satisfy the education component or some other landscape architect experience pathway. Correct? Not even that. Okay. So just so that I understand we're all on the same page, or we made it clear. Okay. And so with this section for the licensed or employed architect or civil engineer, are we, as a subcommittee, recommending 3 years, and then plus whichever education or experience component is added that we've talked about so far, whether it's the bachelor's, related, and related, once we get to those subsections. Yes.
Can you leave other experience like that undefined?
That's technically going to be defined because we're going to be doing the bachelor's degree, the any other degree, the other pathways that we have.
The education part didn't say experience, but it says other experience.
So then, I thought from the discussion it was that if you work under a licensed landscape architect, then you can use that experience also up to 3 years.
So other approved experience in
Some
combination.
kind of qualifier, because other experience means
Anything.
Oh, so you're
Yeah.
saying labeling it on the slide as a qualifier of what has been previously established?
Other approved or qualified experience. It still would be applicable. Okay. And then that would be whichever pathway or activity helps. So, are we okay to move forward with something? It seems that the proposal is 3 years for both, or the recommendation.
So I can't really read the banner there, but on the right column, that's blank, does it say education and or approved experience?
Correct.
I thought that, I don't know if it was a consensus, but I thought they had an issue of using the same category but different professions to equal the 6.
Yes.
So if I read that right, it looks like they could then have 3 other years of any of the other approved experience and not in landscape architecture. I think that's where you guys were leading towards.
Yeah, the question is that an issue? If none of the credit is from an landscape architecture firm, is that a problem? Because this would allow that, yes.
Yeah, I think it's just the labeling. I think it needs to be like education, and or a landscape architect experience.
It shouldn't say other.
And then it's the top, it's not really an experience, or really pathway if you're gonna put education in there, so just the title of the slide.
So experience in education. So I have a question, are we saying if someone who has architect or civil engineer experience could not combine that with C27 experience?
Right. They want them to have
Separate.
some LA experience or education.
I believe that's what we settled. There was consensus that we wanted a licensed landscape architect to give experience to the candidate before they make the step. And let's,
Yes,
let's talk about, what's the minimum amount of time for that? Is it 3 years in this scenario, or, and the C27 is different? I mean, is there a minimum for a licensed landscape architect experience?
I think the C27 is already in regulations as 4, right?
Right.
Right.
With a minimum of 1 year in the license landscape.
So in that case, that has to require one unit of education as well.
I mean, in the future, currently, yes, 1 year of education is required from that.
You're saying there's an experience pathway that you get that experience from a licensed landscape architect working under.
Currently?
No,
Oh,
no,
sorry.
that's what we're talking
In
about.
this, your proposed scenario.
Sorry, I think it's.
It would be 6 years
We're
under,
still basically, 6 years is our baseline for anything.
6 years under a licensed landscape architect, or 3 years max under one of those professions, plus 3 years credit of something else approved, whether it's landscape architecture or education component. That's where it's.
Well, I have a clarification, because currently we have an absolute requirement for 1 year under a landscape architect, so we're not gonna deviate from that.
It sounds like it might be
If you
more.
patch together your other 3, we're okay with that. Without experience.
No, I think we need some number of years, absolutely, under a
With a landscape
architect, yes.
We currently have one in regulation, so I'd like to hold that.
So then, have, sorry, 3 years of experience as an architect or a civil engineer or a C27 landscape contractor, and then have 1 year of landscape architecture architect, I guess, experience working, and then 1 year or 2 other years can be between what, education
Or more LAs.
or more LA experience.
Brianna,
I do. I had a question about education and maybe I hope I'm not getting the water with this, but is that education that's landscape architecture specific education, or was one of those established related degrees count for that education?
I think what I understand is, it can be a related degree, but you need to have at least 1 year of
With
experience.
the real landscape architect.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
that's what we're trying to get to.
Relate any education. Brianna, was it any education or any related education?
Oh,
1 year.
Any approved credit.
Qualified
Already
education.
Okay,
Yes,
so-
based on your acceptance.
Yeah.
so 1 year of credit for education, however that would be.
And then that 1 other year is a freebie of whether it's LA experience or if it's education experience. I'm trying to add up the numbers.
Yes.
Yeah, that works because if it's an AA degree in landscape architecture, you're only gonna get 1 year out of that. So you're gonna have to beef up on the experience.
So you,
So we do, so for the experience for education credits, the maximum 1 year credit
For,
for
for,
AA.
for AA, that's what we said earlier.
And that would then be the recommendation for civil engineering for architect and C27 landscape contractor.
C27 wasn't that.
No.
It has one slide.
Yeah, C27 isn't part of this.
So do we want to ask back here,
No.
or what we did over there, did here?
I guess it pinpoints down to, is it equal credit for being employed under or licensed as? Do they want equal credit for that? If it's equal credit, maybe move over to the other side. If it's not equal credit, then it has to be separate.
And pointed by a C27 on the other slide. This one's if you're,
No,
No?
it's not under precision architect.
No, we pulled it off, separated it.
Because there was that discussion, well, currently we require 4 years.
but that's only if you're that's if you're a contractor.
And then we, when the discussion took place, it was not if you're self-employed, but if you are employing someone under you who wants to apply to the LATC to sit for the exam too. So it kind of opened up a little bit more about that, unless you want to close that. And public comment.
This is actually a question for Steve. Steve, do you think there is a big difference between somebody working for C27 and being licensed as a C27? Because I know a lot of C27s that are not at your level. And so I wonder, the people that are working under them, I don't think that they would be ready. What do you think?
Well, I think it just depends on the company and the individual. There's no set rule. I have a number of people that work with me that if they wanted to achieve their landscape architecture license, that I'm sure they could. And then there may be others I have that there's no way. So there's all levels of employees and then there's all types of companies. But I think it all goes back to what we've been talking about all along, is that they're going to need to know what they need to know to pass the exam. Some of them will be qualified and prepared, and others would not. There's no set, this will work. I think, as what we discussed before, that the experience, there's nothing like having the experience of implementing a design. Constructing a project that was designed, and we don't construct projects that aren't designed. Every one of them has been designed, and they have experience doing that on a regular basis.
Yeah, but right now, the way the law reads here, you have to be a C27.
Yes.
Right, and you need to have 4 years, and so I think to lower to 3 and include the people that are employed, I don't know.
Well, you know, this, I believe that this should stay in place, that you should get credit for the 4 years.
4 years and not 3, right?
Right, not, yeah, for a licensed landscape contractor, that should
A
retain at
license,
4.
exactly.
As an employee, that's up for discussion, if that should be equivalent or not.
Yeah, because now it's both in the same bag, so
Right.
I think they're putting 3 three different cats in the same bag.
Well, it's 2. I mean, this is either a C27 or somebody employed by C27, this slide.
And too, it's not, they're required to have 4.
Right,
They're
it's
allowed
used
credit.
up to.
They're allowed credit up to 4.
Up to 4. So the question on this slide would be, is an employee of the C27, do they need, should they have the same or less possible credits towards achieving a chance to take a test? That's the question.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's also a question of, there's currently not a pathway for somebody who is working under a license C27 to get credit for that. And so I guess the question is, first, should there be a pathway that's specific for that, or does that individual have other kind of ways to get credit through education or through other experiences, working for a different type of, but working for a licensed civil or architect, or working at the same.
So, 2 questions. I'm just really trying to be sure that I understand. So currently as a C27, you can qualify for up to 4 years of experience in education, and we're not talking about pulling that back for C27s. That 4-year qualification will stay in place. Is that what we're talking about? Because I'm confused. I feel like we might be talking about pulling that back, and I would just kind of caution against that. That would be closing down pathways rather than opening them. And
No, I think we recognize that, we were planning on
Okay.
retaining that.
Good. All right. That's all.
So what we're talking about is for someone to gain experience credit working under
Okay.
a licensed C27.
Okay.
And the discussion is that a separate number than working under a licensed architect, or is it the same credit?
From our table of influence for architects, it's considered the same.
Okay.
Just to help you
But
guys.
it's given at 50% credit,
It's given at 50%.
with a max goal.
Yeah, max is 1 year.
I'm sorry. So explain the 50%. How does the 50% work?
So they would have to work 2 years to receive the maximum credit of 1 year.
Okay.
That's someone working under a general contractor or?
General contractor or experience as a general contractor.
Okay.
So that's significantly different than what
Well, we currently have on the book.
right. And so that's actually more restrictive than what we're talking about.
So then for the subcommittee, it seems like there's 2 different discussions for the C27. So if we can go step by step. 1, do we want to include those that are employed, or does the committee want to include those that include employed by a C27?
I
So 1 is no. Steve?
I'm in favor of leaving it where it is.
I would like to include some experience credit for someone who's employed by a licensed C27 landscape architect.
There's subcommittee members can say.
Yeah, I would agree with what Mark said, they should get some credit for that, for sure. Can you restate the question?
So, should those employed by a licensed C27 landscape contractor receive credit?
My answer is yes, and it should be less than someone who is self-employed as a C27.
So,
So maybe we take off, if that's the agreement, we would take off the employed by and put that back on the other chart. The other
we
slide.
would have put it on the other chart because the other chart is a little bit different.
Yeah.
I think
We
I
don't
can make a
wanna
third chart.
confuse that, so we would make another chart.
Just need a third chart. This should say license or.
Or should we?
It should just say,
Employed,
yeah,
So to clarify, we're proposing on that pages 28 that leaving 12 as is. And then, okay, and now we're just setting into the
so then, for this slide, the recommendation to LATC will be 4 years, because we're leaving as is what's currently in the record. And then 1, and the 2 years changes to 1.
2 years changes to one.
Oh, so we're gonna do for the second one. Okay, so then this is for what is currently in the rec book. And
yeah, we're not changing the rate.
yes, we're just leaving that
That's
as
what that is, okay.
And then for slide 34, how much experience do you want to provide or want to allow an applicant to receive credit?
Steve, what do you say?
I would say 3.
Are we starting from scratch with this?
Yeah, yes, please.
So that's maximum of 3 credit, meaning that they have to work 6 years?
No, it's a 100%, I'm looking at
100%.
100%.
Okay, so this is for someone employed under a licensee 27.
They could, yeah, after 3 years, they would earn 2 credit.
Okay.
So if we're trying to align with the architects, to the alignment would be that it's a half, so each year counts for half a year of credit. So, right?
Well, what I was trying to point out was that we treat the two the same. Not so much how we do the credit, but like if you're employed, you get 50%, or if you're licensed, you get 50%. So we treat them the same. There's no distinction as if we treat the people that are employed as more or less than those who are licensed.
So you count them the same.
We count, yeah, we consider the experience to be the same, and that's why they both get 50%.
And again, just to say that my recollection from the last CAD meeting, when we were speaking of alignment, we were speaking about creating the multiple pathways that included an experience only pathway, not necessarily the nuts and bolts alignment all the way down. Right.
And I'd like to try to stay away from 50% credit, and that to me is confusing, so I'd rather.
I would, I guess, say, count it as, so we said for the licensed, it counts as 4, up to 4. I would say here, up to 2.
Yeah, I go with 3. Because they still have to make up the other 4. How many percent they got?
other than the green.
All the other 3 are free. 6 are okay. It's not very good. 6. 3 for me.
3 for me.
So then 3 years max. And then it'll be 2 years of LA, or 1 year of at least LA experience, and maybe 2 years. And then so, Dennis, for the architect or civil engineer, that will change to 3 years of C27, that's not.
Excuse me for a second, I'd love to hear some public comment, since we kind of Any further comment on this? Credit for someone working for a licensed C27 landscape contractor.
I think that time might need to be increased if you're an employee. In other words, 50% gets confusing, I agree.
Well, we're just saying you can work for 3 years and get for a maximum of 3 years
Right.
credit towards the 6 years.
Right, and the other 3 has to be
It
under
has to
LA.
be something else. At least the one has to at least be with a license.
Should, okay, so my question then is, since it's, right now it's 6 for somebody like me, should that not maybe be increased because they're an employee, not an owner like Steve?
We talk about decrease the number to
No.
2 as
No,
opposed
increase the number of years and still require extra time. In other words, forgetting 50% because that's confusing.
Yeah.
In their theory would be you'd need at least 6 of those plus the extra because you're only getting half credit, right?
But we're talking about getting full credit.
No, I understand that, but should that still not be more time?
So are you suggesting instead of changing the top number of credit years from 6 years to changing the top number of credit years
Maybe
to
9.
8 years or 9 years?
Maybe it's 8 or 9 because again, if 3 years is it ends up being under an LA, that's a different story. So there's this graduating scale somehow or another, but I think that if potentially there's more time required in this instance than it would be for somebody like Steve Wright who owned a company versus also having LA signatures as to our competency as well.
I'm hesitant to boost the threshold beyond 6 years in terms of combination. So I'd be much more interested in entertaining reducing that maximum credit to 2 years as opposed to maximum credit of 3 years, which would require a candidate who has that experience under C27 to do other things more years.
No, and I understand, meaning that is that other 4 then under an LA?
Yeah.
Yeah, then that makes sense.
So would this still say 1 year landscape architect, 2 years would be more?
For 3 years. So for number 1, for the member recommendation 1, Mark, were you changing it?
No, I'm not. We took some input, I'm pondering, and wait to hear from the subcommittee if there's interest in reducing that maximum credit, or does it hold and kind of leave it as it is.
I don't think we should reduce it at all. We can split it up differently.
In terms of the extra stuff that's required.
Yeah, but it needs to be like,
Sorry, just a question. If you give it 1-to-1 and you have landscape architect and landscape contractor both getting 1-to-1, does that not imply in some way that a landscape contractor and a landscape architect are thereby the same?
But you get 1-to-1 up to 3 years. If you're working under landscape contractor, you can work for 6 years and then sit for the exam. In our pathway,
I don't think it does, Marcus, because there's still another component that they have to meet. So it's not giving it equal credit. I don't see it as equal credit for the first 3 years because they have to meet it some other way.
Right. Under the landscape architect, they can just stay there
Right.
the whole time, and with a landscape contractor, they have to get experience elsewhere.
Something else, yeah.
I see.
And that's why we're more restrictive, I think, because we not only count it as half.
Right.
Shall we move forward, subcommittee? Do we feel good with the way this is?
Yeah, I think we just need clarification on this, block in the lower right-hand corner. So does that mean we should say minimum 1 year experience working under a landscape architect?
Is that comfortable, or does that need to bump up to 2, at least 2?
I'd like a minimum of 2.
So, right now it's one with an education.
Courtney,
Are we saying that for the experience only pathway, an individual would need 3 years of experience under licensed landscape architect with this?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's what you're saying.
Well, that's what it says, that's what it says in the law, right?
And then,
Are we no longer allowing them to combine different types of experience? We're saying if you wanna come in with a C27 experience, you have to have this 3, what if someone has 2 years?
I'm interested in expanding. If there's if they get an associate degree, they cobble that with the working for C27 and at least 1 year of working for a landscape architect.
But if it's like, just from to understand this new, because experience only is new.
Right.
If they're coming in experience only with this experience, so the 2 years, the minimum is 3 years of experience under a landscape architect, they can have up to 3 years with the C27, if they don't have the full 3, they can need it with civil engineer architect experience, is that correct?
Yeah, I think the big
No.
question is do they have to have more than 1 year working under a landscape architect? Is it okay just to have 1 year with a committee? If it has to, if 1 year is okay, then they should be able to make whatever accommodation. All you need to say is minimum 1 year with a landscape architect, if that's okay with the committee.
but what she's asking is, for that, education or other experience column, if someone comes in with civil engineering experience or architecture experience, can they use that experience to qualify for the other 3? And you all
Well-
decided, no.
It says minimum 1 year with an LA, so right now it would not. You have to have at least one of those 3 years with a landscape architect.
And then 2 years
Then it's,
could
Yeah, well,
be
it's not
for
clear.
LA.
Okay, yeah. I mean, you could gain the other 3 all as experiences in LA, under an LA. But if you you have to have at least 1 year, and the other 2 years could be additional
Be
experience.
a combination of
Or
the
education.
rest. I think that's fair.
Dennis,
to clarify, could it just say, minimum 1 year working under an LA, and then 2 years additional approved experience, like we
Yeah,
have.
because they don't want them to have engineering
Oh.
or they don't want them to
So that was my
Well-
question, that was my first question, so.
If they work for 2 years under an engineer, 1 year under a landscape architect, and 3 years under a contractor, that would be enough.
I'm okay with that.
if they're okay.
Because I think, I think the key is minimum experience working under a landscape architect. You state that first, it's clear that you've gotta have that before anything else is gonna work. And then they can do a
That's not what,
combination.
yeah, that's not what it says,
So
so,
then do you want that to change to say 3 and additional 2 years can be received with approved?
Or just say balance, because you don't know how many.
Remaining.
If you say minimum 1 year and then balance, with whatever the other approved, if it's engineering or
any
architecture.
approved allowable credit, I guess.
So basically, all we're stipulating is a minimum of that experience needs to be under 1 year minimum under a landscape architect. The
That's
rest. Okay.
I think that's how it was before, but we changed it.
And so this is applying to the previously done one, the one what was the one?
This is being employed by a licensee.
Right, the one that we vetted before this.
So the license C27?
Yeah.
And that would change for them too, or?
Yeah. That.
We're not, I thought we weren't,
I'm asking to clarify, yeah,
oh, I see.
yeah.
I see.
Because if you're giving, and then the other side, if you're giving flexibility to the employed by a license C27, then what about the licensed C27? Can they also have that right column leeway?
I would think it would make sense.
Okay.
The same
So it's fine.
leeway.
And it also will apply on the third one, for engineering and architecture.
So then this can go, right? Whoa.
The top portion can be copied, or no,
No, it
you're on a different slide.
Can I ask, yes, since this is already in regulation.
Yeah, that one can be copied onto the other.
Yeah, but I
But we're
think
asking
it's
for-
still, just reaffirming.
So should we take it, so this is for licensing 27, this is license.
Yeah, we just need, we can get rid of, you're jumping around so fast.
So that's fine.
Yeah, so that one's fine,
Alright, we're gonna go back.
and the other one needs to just, you can just change the title at the top, it should just be license C-27.
Oh, I didn't know.
Or as a licensed as
Oh, thanks for that. And then
And then you could copy
this,
right,
you go to, or,
no, well, when you had copied, paste.
so these two
Yeah,
are the
that's
same.
fine, yeah, that works.
Okay, the heading of that, I just think it's an experience.
Yes, it's just
Yeah.
experience slash.
I think the other one said some pathway.
32.
So,
Yes.
Experience and education.
Yeah, I think
so this should go on the other two.
I think so.
Yes,
This is
yes.
not just experience. And then if you can go back to 32, so then that right column would change also, correct? Because it's no longer just approved education, but one year minimum of LA experience, and then the remaining can be approved for only credit. So is the subcommittee okay with that recommendation?
Yeah.
Is the only difference, one of these says 4 years?
Yes.
Yes.
That'd be.
Oh, can you take off the for any combination of architect, civil engineer, full stop? Yeah.
Oh, you're right.
Take it off.
Because that's code already.
Yes.
That one's not.
But look at the recos up above, there's only 1 4.
But I think that this one went back to what's in regulation. I think.
But it
Yeah.
looks like they didn't want to do that by having all those lower.
We didn't have a chance to
It's
we
been
didn't
changed.
discuss and read.
Should I delete these and put forward, just because, you're right, and that
It would
is,
be problem solved. It
Yeah.
would be very.
the discussion started that way, more to 4, to be with.
It's not
So
take away
that should,
something that's already there.
should the right column have 2s in it?
It's the same, so yeah.
That's a lot.
So do we need to repeat these or scratch, make sure we're good?
I think
Make a PDF of it.
No, then, so we have 3, so 3, 3, 2, 3, 4, and then that would be 3, 3, 3,
4.
4, 3.
The top, it should probably say architect or civil engineer. I think you're gonna maybe add a third,
That would be it. Be 3, education.
Yeah.
So we can move on from this.
Yes, please.
Okay.
You want a trigger, you could.
Let's, which one's our next slide?
We have, oh, wait, we skipped one, so. We have unrelated. So yeah, the next area, so we have unrelated bachelors and unrelated associates.
So do you want us to copy and paste the ones that were somewhat related to go in this section?
We had
Or is it
defined defined degrees that we didn't address.
Yes.
So yes, I'd like to copy those that we didn't address and put them.
And then we had a couple under the related field that we took out. Go scroll go down?
Oh.
Those. So this, you can take out some of your, and
That was it, right? Just two.
yeah. So since we have geography at the very top, is that a degree that we wanna leave in there?
Yes. We talk about related,
Unrelated, or any bachelor's degree, or under that realm. Can we see the definitions for any, so a degree in a field unrelated to a landscape architect, as would be defined in CCR 2620D6, and where the degree program consists of at least 4 years.
You might wanna consider this, instead of saying unrelated, to just be any,
and,
any.
let's call it in.
Would it be, you're saying unrelated here or unrelated, or?
Any 4-year degree.
Yeah.
So then, would we need these different?
We wouldn't need those.
Yeah.
Economic psychology.
I guess if you're willing to put it all in a pot and give it X amount of credit,
Yes, and you don't need to list
So then this is a degree, if you have a bachelor's degree, then,
4-year
that's
bachelor's
good.
degree.
I agree.
so 4-year bachelor's.
So do you wanna add that to the title, any 4-year bachelor's degree?
Brianna, do you have any research on this for other states? Or what the model law
For the any, if you want to check that. For the any bachelor's degree, again, it's listed on the agenda item E cover page on page 2 of this. Under non-related degrees, just to provide a brief overview. So the board grants 1 year credit toward any degree that consists of at least 4-year curriculum. And bachelor's degrees, 1 of 8 years. There's 16 states that offer credit towards any degree, and then that's shown on attachment E3. And then the CLARB model law and CLARB model regulations stipulate that as the 5 years education experience credit, it provides 2 years of education credit for any bachelor degree. So that's kind of the highlight pieces of this. But of course, as shown on page 2 of the cover sheet of agenda item E, several of the attachments we thought might be relevant to this session for reference.
did they previously agree on a 4-year related degree that it was worth 4 years credit? Is that what we ended up with?
No, I think it was 3.
It was 3?
Oh, it was
Can we
4.
go back to that slide?
I thought it was 2.
I think it was 2. I think you're right. I thought-
Yeah.
2. That's for a related accredited.
Right.
Related 1 for just one and 5 for
Non-accredited.
So then here we're talking about something less than 1.
Right.
if we don't wanna change our top cap, so we're talking about half a year or
Half a year.
3 months or 9 months or whatever it is for 9 months.
And keep in mind, the next step
Could be
is
lower.
gonna be lower than
The
that.
back.
It's gonna be the 2 years.
Give them
You
30
wanna get
days.
any credit for that.
And then I think the other nuance to this too is then, well, at least for me, I think like Barb talks about, some number of years here being directly under licensed landscape architect, and whether that's different than these kind of experience pathways, which at the minimum 1 year under licensed landscape, maybe one more than one minimum under licensed landscape. Yeah.
So what would the subcommittee like to propose?
I would be inclined to say that a 4-year degree gets at least the 1 year. Because the associate degree, when you're at associate degree, needs to be a landscape architect.
And then the conversation back was, you have the unaccredited 4-year programs that are not accredited by NOB or AVET, and you're giving them 1 and 5 1-year experience for their 4-year related degree.
If I remember my information correctly here, related BA degree is 2.
Those that are accredited by NOB or AVET.
Right.
And then those that are not accredited by NOB or AVET but are still related to landscape architecture, the recommendation was 1 and 5 years, right?
Yeah.
So that's an associate.
Oh,
You need 4 years bachelor equal to a major.
So now you have a bachelor's degree that's unrelated.
How do we get 1? And it's like the voting was 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, 2, 1. Seems like there's
Oh,
some
it's because I think it's maybe a issue. It was a discussion about the two, about accredited versus non-accredited.
Yeah, we just copied information, but we didn't update that chart.
So it needs to be,
So
Then it's to clear
parentheses,
the chart, the top part, the education credit and training credit section.
Oh.
So it doesn't
The
confuse.
parentheses was what they changed their mind after.
Yeah.
Fine-tuned it, so really it's 1, 2, 2,
so
2,
the bottom's
2.
not reflected.
Yeah.
But that was from the previous discussion.
Oh, I
We
see.
copied it, and we just said
Yeah.
1 and 5, and we moved on.
So, yeah, that's good. So they should be deleted because we didn't actually ask
Yes.
for this. But we came
But
to
we
this
did have a
conclusion.
consensus at the time.
Positions.
So, yeah, so what's the equivalent, a non-accredited related degree? Is that equivalent to a bachelor's degree of any sort?
You know, honestly, I'm comfortable leaving this the way it is and saying 0 credit
Unrelated.
or bachelor's or an associate's degree that has nothing to do with any
No,
relationship.
this one is non-accredited.
Right.
It is,
Okay.
it
I'm
is,
okay leaving that.
it's related to
Yeah.
non-accredited.
Right.
Which
This is, right, so this is just related degrees. So all related degrees, consider them as a whole. All related and unrelated degrees. So it's basically you're either accredited or you're non-accredited or you're everything
But
else.
is there a little bit of confusion here? Because we have lab accredited degrees, right?
Right.
But then we have landscape degrees that are not lab accredited.
Right.
So are we dropping from 4 to, what are we dropping to for lab, non-lab accredited?
In current code, we have 3 and
3.
3 and 3, and that's on the books right now. We're not proposing to change that.
Okay, so that's not changing. So what we're talking about now is then related, we said earlier.
We're talking about related here, that is not either ABET or NAA.
And we said we were gonna give 2 for that, right?
No, we're saying we're giving 1 credit for that.
I think it's 2.
Oh,
It's 2
if it's-
or if
if
it's
it's
not,
accredited.
then
But then on the next slide, we're saying of that list.
To be
who's
less
not
than
accredited.
the credit,
or
Yeah.
not, yes.
to be one, for now.
And then those that are not related or deemed to be a related degree, we heard 1 proposal or 1 recommendation of being 0.
I said 0
0. And then what do other subcommittee members?
rather than 6 months.
Yeah, 0 makes sense.
Yeah.
What was it? 0.
Public
Zero.
comment, yeah, sorry.
So are those like your geography
Mhm.
English.
So that's geography, that's environmental, the variations of environmental, that we agree that it would be somewhat related.
Art,
Art, it
Art
references, parks and recreation development, and all that sorts. Actually, I read this.
Sorry?
We were waiting for possible.
Oh, yeah.
0? Okay. Yes.
The board gives credit for any degree. I mean, we have music majors and art majors that are there. So does this still bring LATC in alignment with the board as it had mentioned at the board meeting of having similar paths?
but, I'm sorry, go ahead.
My recollection of our statement for alignment was alignment of multiple pathways.
And alignment is best
To the
possible.
greatest extent
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah.
As best possible.
I mean, it does seem odd that we give up to 1 year credit for it of the 8 and landscape architecture we get 0. It does seem odd that we give
And we would just cause bumping everything else up by a point, is what, is that acceptable?
So do we say, or do we say 6, or half a year credit?
We also have an 8-year requirement as opposed to a 6-year.
Yeah, I
Got
think
a
that's the
little
same
more
as
room.
And then we have some public comment also.
Well, in addition to the comments made, I just want to point out that Clark also has in their model regulation, an option for any bachelor's degree. So it seems advantageous to bring us in alignment with Clark as well.
Where did it say 2 years in the model, Brett?
2.
2 with 3 under a landscape.
3 years of experience.
Any more public comment? Yes.
I don't think it's fair. A bachelor's degree must be worth something. Should it be worth nothing? To my point, Roberto Bolamat was an artist. So I think it should be worth something.
We had ones on this before, right?
Pardon?
We had ones on this before.
I think the valid point here is that someone who has a 4-year education degree is in the same category as a experience-only pathway. That doesn't seem equitable. To the point that an education must be worth something.
Yeah.
Any education.
What would you like to suggest?
Maybe change it to a 1 and then we gotta look at the rest of them and
Yeah, I think it affects.
balances out. It pushes everything else up.
I'm okay putting a 1 right now, and then when we recap and look at all the cylinders, we might do some adjustments then, right? Just kind of go through that step of looking at everything.
Will you be able to do a multi-screen?
Well, actually, we have a slide at the end where we're gonna put everything
Okay.
on one, and we'll look at all the different types, because we've created a few more pathways, we'll look at them all as a family.
I think that's what we can balance it.
Yep. Do we wanna do that?
And then that would be 5. And then there was mention
was
that
that
we
John?
bump up the other numbers. Or would we let it be? Let's just do it at the very end. Let's do then the any 2-year degree. So that's a degree field unrelated to landscape architecture. It's a 2-year curriculum.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't we not do a related associate? We just stayed with an associate in the finance, correct? Yes. So we make that very narrow as opposed to the bachelor.
So any non-landscape architecture or landscape finance design associate would be in this category.
Right, but you did
No,
not
this is
define
unrelated.
on the associate.
I'd say remove
Right
this.
now, we get 1 year credit for an associate degree in landscape architecture at community college.
So in this section, a little bit earlier, we said anyone, or it was suggested that anyone that has a landscape architect degree or associate's degree, urban planning and design, or landscape planning and
Landscape
design,
design and
and then there's one other, those would receive one year credit for those positions. And then this
So
is
this is not.
everything else, not that one.
I'd say half a year,
Zero.
0.5.
So one suggestion for 0.5,
Since
say
it's,
zero.
since it's half of a 4-year, I think. Just
one
one
suggestion for 0.
Yeah, I'll go for 0.
Zero.
0.
I'd say zero.
So then they would be suggested to do the experience only pathway. Okay. So 0 and 6. And then for the first one will be 5.5.
Oh, thanks.
So
So we did them all. So I think we're gonna need a couple of minutes to take them all in one slide. So yeah, if you all wanna take like a 5-minute, 10-minute break, okay?
10-minute break. 10 minutes. Alright. We will resume.
So we put the greatest minds together, that would be Lucy and everybody else. And we made a spreadsheet. And so what we thought we'd do is we just look at all the degree types, all the experience pathways, everything we've come up with today. Kind of look and see, are they all in balance? Does it make sense with what we have already existing? Does it make sense in comparison to each other? So why don't we just, everybody look it over, maybe make notes, and then we'll just start from row 1 and work our way row 2 and work our way down.
What's everybody blow up the print?
You can't see it.
Yeah.
Can't see it.
And then
Can't see it.
I think it's fine.
Can't see it.
Yeah.
Is that better? Or still same?
go to a 32 minimum font, not those numbers.
Ah, good.
Be careful you're not taking.
Oh my God, sorry.
Maybe we'll look at it piece by piece after all. I think it's gonna be hard too, so if you want on your public, we've got some standard up here if you want to come in. I just need closer.
Clarify under number 2, related bachelor's accredited, that's architect and engineer, right? Here's a question, number 2, 9.2, related bachelor's accredited, is that an architecture and an engineering degree?
And that's what we did say, but let's put them up there just so that it's all completely consistent.
I just wanna make sure that that's where,
No, that's good. I think it's good to have that detail just so that we.
well, now it's gone from below, it should still be in number 3.
Oh, to also have
Those-
it in there.
Yeah.
I think that's what they.
Yes, you're exactly right. Oh, wow.
Alright, so. Are these first in 3 rows looking, so everybody remembered what happened in this?
Do you still have in that listing of those related bachelor's degrees? You wouldn't have landscape planning and design there, would you?
Right, so for your alternate, so should landscape planning and design be in the related bachelor's degree for
Because-
non-accredited?
Because that would be landscape architecture. That would be landscape architecture, so that would be a non-accredited landscape degree.
Which doesn't exist probably.
The
Which
landscape,
does exist. Does exist.
Just currently how we, in regulations, those 2 degrees wouldn't be accepted right now.
Landscape planning and design,
Correct.
if I look at it,
As, they wouldn't count as a landscape, maybe I'm hearing you wrong. I
because
thought-
it says accredited, and I'm looking at the green chart, it says non-lab accredited, 3 years.
Yeah, so they don't fall into that category. That is just for landscape architecture, degrees specifically in landscape architecture
That are non-lab.
that are non-lab.
Is it what that, is that what that is?
Landscape planning and design, and landscape design is not the same as landscape architecture.
Okay,
Do they have an accredited program for those other degrees?
I don't know.
I know.
Alright, we actually had a public comment, oh, we should.
no, you answered it.
If you do alt enter, it'll pop up. Good, we had a public comment?
I think you took care of it.
Okay. So are we good that these related bachelor's non-accredited degrees, we're good with the years of education and training experience? And are we good with any bachelor's degree that's essentially the same? We have
I think, your last one, it says same as above. Don't you just wanna strike that? Cause that planning and design is all one,
Yeah, I thought we were.
category.
Yeah, I think we did that.
well, except for me said do and or design and then
Right.
change it back to landscape design because if someone's applying and they have just a landscape design degree, does that mean they don't qualify with landscape planning and design because it doesn't say planning?
Yeah, I thought we had it different than what's written here on the slide.
Landscape planning and
I think it said and or.
But it did say landscape planning and or, you're right, right?
I guess where I'm getting hung up is that if someone is looking at this and someone has, and a school has a landscape architecture degree, but they happen to be calling it landscape and design, they've all fallen off the pedestal,
They wouldn't be accepted right now currently.
even though by curriculum, it is landscape architecture.
Well, we don't look at that.
That's what I'm saying, you don't look at that, so there's
She's saying that
a,
it's
someone
that,
could fall between the cracks there.
Right.
she's saying the crack probably doesn't exist because they wouldn't get it now anyway. Is that what you're saying? They wouldn't get it now anyway?
Well, what if somebody has a degree like
This one.
as Paul is saying, they have a degree and it's called landscape planning and design. But
But the
it's landscape
curriculum-
architecture.
yeah, the
The
curriculum
curriculum is landscape architecture. What happens to them? Right now.
It depends how the degree's named,
Just the type.
just the title.
So someone could fall between the cracks on a label.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what I said.
Nathan had a comment. No, so going back then to, so we have, non-accredited related degrees. Yeah, but I think, I guess to your question, Pascal, the question about, so what we now have is we have a landscape architecture accredited, existing, and a landscape architecture non-accredited, but then there's no land planning and design, it's just well, there's no place for it in the existing standard, but in the proposed standard, I guess it would fall under.
They'd get half the year.
Yeah, they get, it would go into our
right? They get half, and I think Smel's saying maybe they should get full as the curriculum for landscape architecture.
So it sounds like it might be another meeting then to talk about.
Yeah.
Because if it's a different degree title, and we're not checking curriculum, that's a whole separate.
You would think the applicant would say, hey, wait a minute, it's the title thing, and then you guys would look at it.
But we're staying away from checking curriculums.
Yeah.
Down that rabbit hole.
So it's a
And
tough
most landscape architecture programs, if they're teaching landscape architecture, they say landscape architecture. They don't say landscape.
But I don't
You'll have to Google it, I don't know.
Yeah.
So we don't want to drift too far. So we're making sure what we have is here, but if we're looking at the explanation and definitions of what somebody might be, we need to define it cool, but there's some of that might have to be a separate meeting. Did you have a comment?
Yeah, it's just a comment, because I do know of a school in San Diego that was teaching landscape architecture, and it did not get accreditation. And so I feel really bad for those students that paid for the school, went through the whole school, and then the school didn't get accredited, and at the end, all they get is one accredited education.
But the degree was in landscape architecture.
Yeah, that's,
So they get 3 years of credit right now.
but the school never got accredited.
And there's
They
still
still
a
get 3 years of credit.
That's not up there, but that's.
These are just the new copies.
These are brand
The
new.
existing ones are still in
Right
here.
now, they would get 3.
Correct.
Take it
Yeah.
3 years.
Tracy has a comment.
So I would like to hear some dialogue about having the same education training qualifications as a non-accredited related bachelor's and any bachelor's.
Yeah, these two.
I'd like to.
That's a problem.
All 3 of them are 1 year, so.
Yeah.
So this is the problem with a 6-year
Yes.
total cap, is that we start having to get into months down the bottom.
Well, at least maybe a half year. Half year increment.
But if
So I'm guessing the related bachelor's is worth more than any bachelor's, and it's worth more than the associate degree.
So this is the most, the less most, and the least.
You could make the argument that any bachelor's degree and an associate's degree in the area are probably equivalent.
Okay, that's a good point.
And maybe the related bachelor's is worth, worth 1.5 credits, or the other one's worth a half credit, or something to separate the.
Or you could also increase these two
Yes.
if you wanted to in a relationship.
Could it be argued though that an associate's degree that's focused on landscape architecture or landscape planning and design gives you a full year of focused study on that? So I'd hate to reduce that because it's a real focused, there's focused curriculum.
So how about increasing the others?
weren't there some 3-3s on the first one early on, the first discussion, the related bachelor's, so do you have 3-3?
I did, but then we backed that off. I was like,
So how does the committee feel about increasing the first two? Or the first one?
What if we're to increase the amount of education credit given for architecture and civil engineering bachelor's degrees?
3-3 and then.
Or
increase the
3, yeah.
2-4 and then leave the rest.
So you're saying this would be 3-3 for row 2?
Right.
Okay,
Well, row 2-3-3, and then this one would be 2-4.
And then you're
Does
saying,
that fix everything?
and then you're saying leave these two the same, one
Yeah,
to
'cause
one?
I think there's probably not a whole lot of difference there. One clearly is focused, but it's only 2 years, and the other one's not focused and it's 4 years.
Alright, so we have slight conversations, so, but Nick can have a comment?
I think the direction we need to go is lowering the numbers down below. Because if we get into this, we're gonna get into talking about accredited versus non-accredited versus extension certificate versus associate, in kind of what's the existing framework, and then we have to compare, what we're talking about here to all of those, we're talking about moving things up. So it's easier to just good count.
I agree with you, Nathan, on that.
So do you wanna undo what we did?
Yes.
Okay, hit Control Z a few times.
Do you wanna add the language about the extension certificate so you can see the credit given for that?
Oh, yeah.
So do you wanna go 6 months, or what do you suggest?
Well, 6 months doesn't really align with a school year, does it? It's
That's just simply
that's
the
how it's
credits,
credits.
that's just the credits.
It's
It equates to hours, is what it, right?
hours.
It's hours,
Well, that's how we calculate the work experience.
yeah, so really,
So, do we increase, line item 3 to 1.5?
What do you all think about that? I would propose taking any bachelor's to half a year and associate's degree in a related associate degree to what? Well, it's not related, it's just, oh, I guess it's.
Yeah, we have related and
Related.
unrelated.
I'm okay with a bachelor's degree to a half year, but I'd really like to hold that associate degree at 1.
So you're making the associate's degree equivalent to the non-accredited bachelor's degree.
No, non-accredited bachelor's degree in landscape architecture or a related field.
So we have any bachelor's degree, and you're saying this potentially could be 0.5 or 0.5, is that what you're getting? So can we just put 0.5? And then we do 1 year degree, 1 year credit for related in 2 years.
Right. But my point is you're making an associate's degree equivalent to a bachelor's degree. They're both non-accredited, one's twice as long as the other, and they have the same credit.
But they're different focus.
This is related to the profession
So
somewhere.
they're the similar focus.
Well,
What if we made?
I mean, because one's specific landscape.
Yeah.
I see your point.
What if we made the associate degree in landscape environmental design at 0.5, so it's basically equivalent to a bachelor in things.
Well, just to devil's advocate that an existing, because that includes landscape, an associate degree in landscape architecture, that is an existing pathway, currently has one. So to the comment that Vicki made earlier, it might be hard to justify lowering.
So either we leave it the same or.
So then this almost sounds like from what Brianna said, this has to kind of stay at 1, is that what you're saying?
Well, I don't know if it has to, but.
We'll be going backwards.
Nobody wants to.
Alright, so, so another suggestion would be, and an idea, but to keep it the same way as it is now would be to say, so 1 year for landscape architecture, associate degree, but then take the land planning design, the environmental design,
Yeah,
associate degree and make them.
I'm okay with that.
You could do that, it'll stay in line with what's current.
So on line item number 5, we're just eliminating landscape architect.
Oh, I
And
see.
we're gonna change that to a half year. Or half.
And then that would be 0.5. We had a public comment, we had back there, and then this, Marcus, you had something too? We'll start with you. Would you have anything else to honestly see?
What did the associate degree in landscape architecture go?
It still exists.
It's current.
Oh, so we're not missing current.
Correct.
Right, because
This
there's
is all
several.
brand
It
new
would be
stuff.
helpful to have current stuff.
And then we had a public comment here.
Yeah, I just wanna say that, we're in semantics here, but environmental design, associate's degrees, to me, having been through one, look very much like landscape architecture degrees, the associate degrees. I think that it would be, I would have looked at this and thought that I would qualify for 1 year, along with a landscape architecture degree from a community college. I think that half a year is not sufficient for that course load. It's just my personal opinion, I do think the state invests a great deal in community colleges in this way. Just because the program is called environmental design, I don't think it should be penalized, my personal opinion.
Marcus, you want to say something?
I was just gonna point out that for the architects, with our 8-year requirement, a related bachelor's basically counts as about 1/4
What
of the
about the
total time.
AA though?
Of the total
The
time.
AA, if it's in architectural or related field to architecture, that gets a full year. And
One
if
of
it's
the
any AA, it just gets 6 months.
So it's 1 of 8 or half of the year of 8. 0.5 of 8.
Yeah. But in the case of the bachelor's, it's roughly a quarter of the full time needed, so it gets 2 years, is what I was trying to say.
It sounds like these numbers are pretty scrunched together and we're trying to put some space between them. But it may not be possible to put space between them, or like we had one idea, which was if that was 3 and that was 2, that would give us space. It's your all's job, that's why you were recording.
Well, if you make the top one 3, right now it's only 1, so that's jumping it up 2 more years.
We're squished.
I'm comfortable moving this forward. As it is.
So we have one thought that we're comfortable moving forward with the way this part of it, we still need to go on to the experience part of it. But for the education part, keeping it to 1, half.
Before you maybe move forward, one thing you ought to consider, is that all the education right there?
I think so, if we scroll down, I think the next row, 7, is gonna be, yeah.
So, right now, regardless what credit you get for education, we require 1 year under a landscape architect. Do you feel that should still be required? Because if you look at it, so if you just go to the top, it's 2 years credit. So that 4 years, do you care what that 4 years consists of and the 5 years below it? Do you care whether or not that has 1 year at a minimum be under a landscape architect?
Doesn't it default to what's currently in code?
That's currently, but I think it's just kind of reconfirming that that's your understanding that that's what would go forward, is that one of the remaining years would be under a licensed landscape architect.
And that would change for all the existing too, right?
Well, that's currently what's required is a minimum.
Yes.
It's a cross-cutting requirement.
Right,
Right, and I just assumed that it would be.
I guess I'm just pointing it out that, do you understand that the remaining credit needed with one of the years would have to be under a licensed landscape architect.
So are we in agreement that in column C, training experience, one of those years being under a do we want to move on to the experience only pilot, or are we good?
They're still chewing on it. We can move on, let's come back.
Well, keep in mind too, these are going to be your recommendations to the committee.
Right.
And then they're
Maybe change everything.
This is gonna be 0.5.
yeah, so
Let's break it down.
yeah, that's a good point. Lucy, you point out, but since we did these half, those are going to be 5.5 of which one?
And I think when it's presented, it would be helpful if current criteria is also addressed.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Because you're missing that right now, you're missing the associate landscape architecture degree.
I don't know if we need to do this. I mean, yeah, you're saying incorporate this into that spreadsheet when
That's
the
right, so
committee looks at it?
Go right down the.
Right.
That's probably a good idea. Should we look at work, or, oh, yeah.
Okay, so right here, the associate is what, one,
One,
right?
Associate in landscape architecture.
And the landscape design too, right?
Yeah,
Because
so
some,
landscape architecture, 1 year associate, 1 year credit and associate degree, that's correct. See the green band along the bottom where it says landscape architecture, all those degrees above it have to be in landscape architecture.
And landscape design is not,
It has to be in landscape
it
architecture.
hasn't been that way.
Because the purple is related.
But that's the one we're changing.
Cause I feel like somebody went 2 years of landscape, environmental landscape design, a community college. The state spends a lot of money, it should be at least worth one.
So I think that's what we talked about, is gonna probably be a separate meeting, is to talk about that landscape architect and landscape design and what those names mean. So that's probably a separate meeting, not for today. And then you have your hand up, so.
I just want to check on one thing, and that is that now that any bachelor's degree is 6 months, if you have an extension certificate and a bachelor's degree, that's currently worth 4 years. So would that still be worth 4 years, or would it be 2 plus 6 months? Or I just want to clarify that, just in case that becomes a problem.
So I think tell me if I'm wrong on this. The question, how does an extension, the whole new wrinkle, how does the extension certificate play into it if I already have any other bachelor's degree?
Courtney, could you clarify, we don't give credit right now for any bachelor's.
We only give credit for any bachelor's if it's in combination with the extension.
Right.
Exactly.
So my understanding was that pathway would stay.
Yes. But we don't give credit right now.
So we already have it covered.
Correct.
Okay. That's fine.
You look at experience. You make it bigger.
Oh, see, we can associate degree.
Alright, so we have. So this is what we have to be experience only or experience in.
It's not a bad idea. Is it Courtney, send that chart?
You go one more row, so we see, yeah, 7, 8, 9, 10.
I don't know that it should say experience only under LA, because
So
we just give a max of, just need up to 6 years.
Experience under.
Yeah.
are you talking this one?
Yeah.
So take away that one.
For which one is that?
Well, we can work on typos and things like that.
So it's experience under a landscape architect in any jurisdiction is what that means, right?
Yeah, it's not really under an and another, it's,
In any other, yeah.
Oh, any other, you might have told me that, I just typed it wrong. That's good. Any other.
well, it's California too, so.
I think right there was just specifying license versus experience under, right? Like experience under or
It's-
license. Experience as a license. Landscape architect.
I don't think either.
Oh, I see what you're saying, Courtney. Okay.
Experience.
It should be,
So if you have experience as a licensed landscape architect in Nevada, you get 1-to-1 credit up to the 6 years.
Yeah, so experience as or supervision by. Right, with reciprocity.
Right. Let's fix that.
Or supervision.
It's kind of confusing. Experience not as a landscape architect in California.
So what should the whole thing say? This one start to finish.
I don't know if it really matters if we specify it in another jurisdiction, but it's just experience as or supervision by a licensed landscape architect.
Experience as or supervision.
Or supervised by. a licensed landscape architect, right?
Yeah.
Is that what it-
A license, you say
Well,
it.
it's already outlined, yeah. I'm just stating it how it will be enforced.
So that's, I think, what we're looking for at this point, because there's confusion, is what should that say? And that would help us.
And it wouldn't just
And
be
it doesn't say in California, it just, yeah,
In
experience
general.
as or supervised by a licensed.
There you go. Okay.
So is the third line, just as a licensee or employed by?
Third line is a license C-27.
No, the civil engineer and architect,
Oh,
is that licensed as?
experience as or supervised by.
Is it the same as the
Yeah.
other line?
Yes.
Actually, no, so just experience as or supervised by.
A licensed.
It's
Like-
like civil engineer or. How are we feeling about these? Alright,
Good.
let's see,
On
sounds,
the very bottom, there should just be experienced employees under C-27. That word as, seems like it's extra.
so remove the word as. So they,
By a license.
oh, instead of under, it should say by.
Probably by.
Or supervised by. I think we're
If you wanna
going
keep the
towards
words-
supervised versus employed, so.
Okay, so
Supervised.
supervise,
You know that they have the direct supervision requirements of the other professions.
something like that.
Yeah, that works.
Are we good? So,
So how are we doing on the hours?
I'd like to team in for today.
No, I mean, you're asking about are we okay with these numbers, right? The years, the credits.
Yeah.
That's the big question. I'm okay.
Okay, so I'm ready. So then the next steps are, Brianna. The next step is Brianna's going to tell us something.
Well, I know we just wordsmithed the heck out of this, but I wanted to clarify with the subcommittee. When we're saying supervised by a license in each of these experience category, are we saying California licensee as the supervisor, or are we saying anywhere a licensed?
Well, by definition, a C-27 is a California
Okay,
licensed
Okay.
contractor. The other two are open debate.
okay.
And
Do we want
To clarify, in the reg right now, the pathway for C-27 specifies, or it says, but it states, self-employment as a California licensed landscape contractor or a licensed landscape contractor in another jurisdiction where the scope of practice is equivalent.
okay,
So
so we want to make
are we bringing that over to this?
And I think architects, it's under US jurisdiction.
US.
Puerto Rico,
One or
territories.
Georgia.
So are we good to move on?
I think it's in a United States jurisdiction.
I think that, in my opinion, the intent is to
Yes.
kind of stay in that realm where we are allowing, in the case of C-27, it's the same language as you have currently, which is
That's my understanding was we were gonna change that to match.
okay. Slightly different than I just said.
So we're
Confusing one.
So we're going to, so when we take this back, when we make a presentation for the LATC, a question comes up, we're saying, we're putting experience, as kind of as you mentioned in 2620, subsection 1240, that it's licensed in California or any other national
An equivalent.
equivalent jurisdiction.
So keeping keeping the language, whenever there's a question about the language, we would keep it as it shows up in the regs.
Keep it consistent.
Then we can
Alright, don't go yet, we have one public.
So this goes back to the question that Steve brought up. In that section regarding a licensed landscape contractor, it also should be noted that they need to be the RMO, they need to be the qualifying license taker. So there's a difference between, you can own a landscape company and not have taken a test if you hire a responsible managing employee. So I think that needs to be clarified, that the C-27 is, in my case, I'm sure his, that I was the one responsible for passing the exam and getting the license. There's a big difference there. Because you could misqualify that easy enough.
And how does that work with landscape architecture?
So
You know, if you're working in an architecture firm and the individual has a license, but your training is by one of their employees who may not be licensed, does that count?
You have to be under the direct supervision of the license.
Okay, so it's the same thing you're saying.
And I think what might be a nice next step is for Brianna and company to take this back and clarify, to actually write it out how it's going to be. I think the earlier comments of putting what the existing regulations are so everybody can see it together. And then maybe having the LATC look at that, like the actual wording, because here we captured the concept, but to get the actual clean wording, how it would read might help everybody get the necessary of that wording.
Right now, the regulation doesn't pin it down to the RMO or RME of the C-27, it just says.
Well, that would be, that's my point, is if we get at what it would say, and then we would say, no, the regulation doesn't cover that, or yes, this mirrors what the existing regulations is. Alright, are we good? Do you wanna be good?
We're good, let's go back up to the education, because we didn't get, I said move forward, but the crew didn't.
Okay.
So this is back at the education where, do we have enough spread in between these? We should be down slightly so we can see that.
Because once the group is okay, then I'll need a formal motion, a second, we'll have our full discussion, if there is any, and we'll vote.
And we're voting to just present this to the other.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
So so whether it's incorporated here or goes kind of back in a different format, I guess the discussion about the, I guess encouragement of the CLXP portion, do we want to, how do we attach that?
I think that could
Desire
be,
to
I don't think we want that attached to the motion, but I think that could be a separate request, directive, not a directive, but a request that is forwarded to the LATC, that we found that that's a very important component to the future.
And that helps create better kind of a match with what's happening in architecture.
I agree. You okay with that concept? It's not gonna be in the motion, but it's gonna be a request. Yeah. Formal request. Yes.
Alright, you make the motion.
The only thing that I would say is to kind of even out the numbers a little bit, to graduate them up, is at the bottom we have 0.5, and then we have 0.5, and then 1 and 2. Maybe go 0.5, 1, 1.5, and 2.
So,
1.5 would be, that's 1 right now.
0.5, 1, 1.5, and then the one below that would be the 1.
Yeah, so any bachelor's degree is 1.
So you're saying, again, going back to this, any bachelor's degree is worth more than something focused on landscape design.
Yes, because the one associate degree is coming from the landscape architect.
Well, it says any bachelor's degree versus an associate degree in landscape planning or design. You're saying it's,
So he's saying this is my
that's
second
worth twice as much as having an associate's degree in landscape design. Any bachelor's.
And I say that because I heard earlier that landscape design was not really landscape architecture.
Well, some people say it is, some people say it
Right,
isn't.
but
There's
it's-
not clarity.
let's say it's not, you're saying a 4-year degree in a study that's completely unrelated to landscape design is 4 years is worth more than 2 years focused on landscape design.
But that does give a little extra weight to a geography degree that we've discussed and debated,
Right.
maybe has a little more relevance to landscape architecture, but it doesn't quite make, in our opinion, the related bachelor's
Yes.
or arts or something like that, gives it a little more weight.
Because, I mean, the difference between a 4-year bachelor's degree and environmental design would be twice as much as an associate degree in environmental design.
Okay.
I'm comfortable with that.
Yeah, I'm okay with it.
I'd like to
Yeah,
comment on that. I know I've been quiet, but I've got a bachelor's degree in recreation administration with an emphasis in parks and resources. And I am a landscape designer, and I took my training at 2 community colleges, so I don't have a degree or an associate's degree, but I gotta say, I felt much more prepared to take on the landscape design occupation based on my training at a community college in landscape design than I ever did from any of the park-related classes, which included park planning. Just throwing that into the general discussion.
If I may ask, how many years' experience? Did you take the exam?
No, landscape design.
Okay.
So
But you haven't taken the landscape architect's exam?
I'm not a landscape architect, I wouldn't take that.
But how many, if I can ask, how many years of experience do you have?
I've been working as a landscape designer for about 10 years now.
So again, experience is still trumping the have 6-month credit or 1-year credit review for education.
Yeah, but I worked with a contractor for about 6 months until I realized he was slightly incompetent and decided that I would have to go out on my own. So, I mean, that's just my real experience.
Is the group ready to, someone ready to make a motion?
I make a motion to accept the,
Before we do, we have something.
can have discussion.
Yeah, number 9 in the Practice Act, Brianna, on page 28, talks about a degree in architecture which consists of at least a 4-year curriculum that has been accredited by NAP. That only accredits 5-year programs. So that gets a year, and that would be the same as the accredited architecture that's listed up there on line 2.
They're changing that.
We're changing that.
Yeah,
From 1 to 2.
right.
That top one chain increases it to 10.
Oh, I thought
We're
we-
proposing to change.
Okay, I thought we moved there.
So,
Because it wasn't equitable for the other ones, they're not 1 year credit, so it kind of naturally bumped up.
Mark, go for it.
Well,
I make the motion to accept what's on.
and that's for the education and experience credits as
Correct.
presented.
Correct.
Okay, we have a motion. It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion from the subcommittee about this topic? Public comment on this.
I just want to thank you all from the bottom of my heart for taking this seriously and getting to this point. It's been a long road. I really appreciate all your efforts and patience with us, and thank you.
Any other public comments? Okay, any other further? Subcommittee. Roll call, vote please.
Aye.
Actually,
Roll
okay.
call.
Yeah. Can you do
Not
roll
vote,
call?
but roll call.
I'm sorry.
I will initiate the roll call.
Thank you.
Mark Prescott.
Yes.
Swallow Gutierrez, yes. Steve Jacobs.
Yes.
Nathan Lozier.
Yes.
John Nichols.
Yes. Great. Any other further comments?
The approve agenda item.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do.
I want to comment, if I may. I would like to commend the subcommittee for taking on this project. It's really kind of groundbreaking work, and it adds so much to the committee's work in having a fair, valid, and legally defensible program. So this will be an example that I'm going to use for some of our other 14-030 folks of. It's really great that you're taking the time and expertise to consider each one of these pieces that really helps impact whether or not folks get licensed, and it's just huge. So it's very important that it wasn't an arbitrary process, that it was actually well thought out recommendations that are going to the committee and then to the board. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment on items not on the agenda?
Hey, can I have one? We do have evaluations where we grade our work and how well we do or don't do, so if something didn't work for you today, we need to know about so we can fix it. If something did work for you today, we need to know about that so we can fix it. So I'm gonna just take those and pass it around, and you can just leave them somewhere and we'll pick them up. Thank you.
Brianna, next steps.
Agenda item G, next steps, as mentioned before, the LATC is meeting in Los Angeles, November 2nd, and we will be bringing this proposal to them for their consideration as well. If there's no questions about the very high level next step overview, I just want to take this opportunity to thank the committee for volunteering their time to be with us today to help reach this decision. Appreciate it.
Now, really quickly, if you can, for Mike and everybody else. So explain the steps about where it goes from here and tell it to Nat.
Okay, so we're, as I mentioned, we are going to take it to the LHTC because they asked that you all come up with this proposal. We're going to take it to them as the subcommittee's recommendation. Upon the LATC's approval, then that will go before the board at their meeting on December 7th, I believe. And then upon the board's approval, then LATC staff will start working to create an updated regulation for CCR 2620, and we will go through the standard OEL procedures to promulgate that regulation.
And so the Department of Consumer Affairs picks that package up and moves it through the legislative process.
Not the legislative process, but it goes through a review process. Office of, gosh, I'm blanking. It's the OAL stands for Office of Administrative Law. Yes, thank you. It's several. It'll open up for public comment again. Certainly, it's a review process, but it would be a forward motion to get this promulgated.
Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you.
I just want to make sure everyone understands the process that we're going to be going through.
No, I appreciate it.
Okay, I'd like to thank everybody for being here. Thank you guys so much for spending all the time with us and kind of muscling through this. I really do appreciate that. Okay, so with nothing else, I'm going to call this meeting completed. We adjourn.